sound that you hear like an echo in your head. There's a strange vibration rising out from the heart of America, America. Listen to the sound of the drum calling praise to the game of the new world order. Don't be caught unaware when the heads start rolling. No, it couldn't happen here. I know it wouldn't happen here. But I will not submit to authority of man. I'm alive, I'm awake. This is more than I can take. If you had an open door, would you kill a little more? Listen to the cries of the dead in the wake of the Sudan. Is there no one out there? I see blood in the sands of despair in Africa. Listen to the sound of applause in a chamber full of men selling out their people as they plan their assault on the heart of America. No, it couldn't happen here. I know it never happened here. I will not submit to authority of man. I'm alive, I'm awake. This is more than I can take.
All right, you're on Double Cross Radio Live, and we're coming from the Republic of Jefferson. And I tell you right now, we should have a pretty good show lined up for you. Bruce, you were having a little bit of feedback. If you could please find some headphones, or if you're not speaking, mute your mic. It'll be a little bit helpful. Right now, we've got Bruce Cook, who is U.S. Open Carry USMC on YouTube. He's also an activist for the local area and a college student. We've got Michael Jones, who's a gun activist as well, and also an extreme help to the push in Josephine County to get some people unelected that are doing bad for their county. You can find them at badcounty.what, Michael?
Badcounty.com.
Alrighty, and then we've got Craig Froenig, who is 880's KCMX morning show host. Tonight we're going to do a little bit of gun talk and, local government talk, things like that, and have a good time with it. So, if everyone would like to introduce herself, we also have our, as always, amazing co-host, Drew and Chuck.
Hi, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, it's Bill Carey.
Hey, this is Craig. This is Craig Froenig, and it's a pleasure to be on with everyone tonight. And hi, this is Mike Jones. And just to clarify, I am not badcounty.com. I'm an assistant to Dale, who is pretty much the face of badcounty.com. So I'm the technical guy behind the scenes.
I kind of got that point across, I think, but you might have misinterpreted me. So there's good clarification for everyone. Recently, we've seen some incidences in Ferguson and around the country that have sparked a lot of outrage in any demographic, honestly, that you could be from one way or the other. We've seen a lot of militarization locally. We've seen some issues locally in Ashland where tactics were used improperly, and I sent out an Army manual that was for issues to do with civil disturbances. Now, what it was probably, in my opinion, militarily meant for was uses of overseas, like when we interfered in Egypt and in other countries like we do. But the interpretations of that also carry down towards the National Guard, because if the Army uses it, the Army National Guard uses it, and vice versa. We've seen a little bit of what the tactics are like in this issue. I've seen a little bit of them myself personally local, but I'm actually going to wait till I get my FOI filed until we talk about that event. Everyone here is familiar with that event, except for Drew, I do believe. But it wasn't a very nice event, I'll tell you that. And I was being perfectly peaceable and lawful. So, Bruce, Craig, and Mike, you guys have all read through this, and a little bit at least, right?
You're talking about the Army manual? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I skimmed through it, looked for the important parts.
And Michael, you did as well?
Yeah, but just like politicians in Washington, I didn't read the entire thing. Just the salient, thought-provoking titles from the table of contents.
And Craig, you've read through this a little bit, at least.
I actually haven't, so I'm on email if somebody wanted to send it to me, or I could catch up. But depending,
You've got a link to it in your Facebook, I tagged you in a post and told you about
it. Excellent. Okay, good. I can find it there. Okay.
Well, this will be a little bit informative because I know I did not. I totally blew my mind to think about saying this to Chuck and Drew, and I didn't. So that's really my bad, guys, and I apologize. I did post it on our page, though, and I know that you guys read a lot of that stuff. So I don't know if you guys did or did not read that, Chuck and Drew.
No, I've been doing live radio all day, Colby.
I saw the...
I'm just making up the news as I go along.
I saw it on our Facebook page, and I started to read it, and then I was called to other duties, and I didn't. When I came back, I was distracted by something else. So I just got into the very first part of it. I knew that you were all over it, so I was waiting for tonight to hear the rest of it.
Well, I've been a little over it. Me and Bruce had some time to talk about it, and Michael, I know I actually got this from Michael's wife. She sent it to me to confirm it because I still have military contacts, which, there's a lot of people that do this with me, and I have no problem with it if I've still got contacts that can confirm or deny that it is factual. The manual we're talking about is capitalized ATP space 3-39.33. The actual title of this is, I'm scrolling up on my page, sorry. Civil disturbances and how to deal with them by the Department of the Army. Apparently, they sat down and they've taken things like Occupy and things like protests in other portions of the world, and they've got the collective minds set together, and those little think tanks they do, and figured out every possible productive, counterproductive, and formational spectrum they could comprehend from anything, and written a manual on how to deal with civil disturbances like we're seeing in Ferguson right now. I think we have a multitude of actual ex-military people in here. I don't remember correctly. Mike, I think you are?
No.
Okay, you are not. Open Carry is, and no, Open Carry, you're ex-Marine Corps, so surely you read through this, and you and I know how to skim read a military manual, because they're always like this one, 134 pages long. It's a lot to take in, and you have to get trained. What is it? Once a year is a requirement, and there's a refresher that's usually small every 6 months. Bruce,
are you talking about in instruction on how to read a military manual?
Negative. I was actually talking about the fact that when you're in the military, you have to do annual qualifications, and you have to do semi-annual qualifications, and then quarterly qualifications. So you'll go to a place, and you'll go through medical, you'll go through anti-EID or IEDs or mines and weapons training, field training, how to set up this, how to set up that, how survivalist course things. And you usually do one of those field ops twice a year or once a year, depending on the branch. And then you have a quarterly evaluation process that you go through. So they kind of like refresh you, and then you go through and you pass a test again to make sure that you're still good.
So I'm still here, guys, but I had some technical difficulties, so I'm trying to catch up. But I think Colby was trying to ask me a question, and I have no idea what it was. That's what he was asking me.
Roger, Bruce. I was talking about how our Marine Corps is different than Army, obviously, but you guys go through an annual refresher course.
Okay, so
on a large spectrum, and then you go through quarterlies and then bi-quarterlies.
Well, no, that's what the books say. That's what the paperwork says. But the reality is that's all pencil whipped. It's all signed off, and you sit down and you go through the record books and you sign everybody's training, and we had this, and nothing really gets done. I was in for 18 years and I qualified 4 times for the M16, but I had a qualification in my record book every year.
I wish the Army was that nice to me.
It's not. It's not nice, because what it's doing is they're saying, "Oh, well, you had the training, and then you didn't go by the training, so it's your fault, and we're going to hang you out to dry." And that's what they're doing. Now, I've been out for a while, so I'm hoping that maybe some people change that, but I wouldn't hold my breath, because it's been that way for generations. That's the way the government works. They put something in writing, tell you that that's your responsibility, and then they expect you to do it a different way.
So maybe that's why they can't train the Army in Iraq in 10 years.
Iraq is Iraq, Afghanistan. We don't fight wars like we did historically. They're asymmetrical warfare, and it's just anything and everything goes on the side of the opponent, and yet we have our hands tied with rules of engagement that are absolutely ridiculous. So.
I would think that would be a little bit different for the Iraqi army itself. I would assume that they would have more leeway on the rules of engagement than we would, especially considering the enemy they're facing right now.
From firsthand experience, I can tell you that working on a military installation outside of Baghdad, that being a helicopter unit, we'd had some close calls. I personally once had to call us. We were going to go up, and I was like, no, don't. We've got somebody flying over us, and no one's got accountability. And that's a problem, is when they're doing the training, there's also sometimes they use an interpreter, sometimes they use someone that's closely related with what their actual dialect is, and it doesn't always work, because just like how we have different dialect in the east, south, and west, and north at some points, they've got different dialects also of their same exact speech. So it always doesn't cross-reference to just whatever you're taught to speak to them. So there's always different dialects between different people. It's similar to here culturally. If we say, grab the car keys, there's different conjunctions that sound differently to them than what you're actually saying.
I need a quota.
I need a quota. It's different. It's like Boston's a really good example of that, honestly. But what is your guys' experience with guns? And we'll start with Craig, actually.
Sure. Well, Colby, thanks for having me. I grew up in the Northwest, families, ranchers, and things like that. So we always had weapons around, and it was a privilege to become of age and go through the weapons. Long rifle, shotgun, revolvers, and it was didn't get into the hunting so much, only from the standpoint of, at that point, well, I got into hunting later, definitely, but growing up early age, and then up through the scouting program, non-military, but always have enjoyed that and always have respected gun ownership. And I just, somehow, for me personally, I don't get the whole hunting party with 5 cases of beer, a cooler full of steaks, and loaded to the gills. That's a little freaky for me. I know it goes on, but I like to count myself in the upper echelon of quality gun ownership and marksmanship.
I think that's definitely. I will say I've been to different hunting camps personally here in Southern Oregon, and it's back and forth. I know that when I go hunting with certain people, there is no drinking involved, but we might have a couple beers at the end of the night.
Oh yeah, I'm fine with
others,
that as long as you put the guns away or something. But yeah,
only certain ones, Colby. But not all of them, huh?
Exactly.
Okay.
Certain ones.
Yeah, and I'll just break open the whole conversation, Colby, and that is gun rights in this country. And it was brought to my attention, USA Today and the New York SAFE Act passed in 2013. Governor Cuomo, and that's nuts as it's trying to sweep west. And I think constitutionally, there's a whole big nut to crack there.
Well, sweeping west, we have a lot of constitutional nuts to crack, quote unquote. But One of them is a Lance, for one. The promise has not been honored, and we need that to be done first of all. We need our border, honestly, is only unsecure for the most part down here, because I don't really see anybody bearing the wilderness. And if they are, I mean, they might deserve citizenship if they're coming through Canada in some of the spots that I've driven through Canada. So the West is definitely overlooked in a large demographic, because we are a large demographic, you know. But we do have a voting base in some areas like Portland or Seattle or down the southern coast of California that's just completely liberal. So it is a difference. I mean, and we are still semi the Wild West. I mean, I could carry an AR and a pistol on my hip and on my chest whenever I want to and walk through downtown and nothing happens. I know Bruce does this frequently. Bruce?
I wouldn't say frequently, but I do it when it needs to be done. And I get police interaction both times that I've done it, but do the Mark Guardian, the young guy that carries the rifle, started out, three years ago? They don't do what they used to do, and that's violate the law and citizens' rights. So now they come up and they go, hey, what are you doing? Instead of guns drawn or not, and disarming you and cuffing you and running your numbers. They don't do that anymore. So they still need to have somebody go out there occasionally with a rifle just to make sure they keep on their toes and remember that. But the rifle is, I save that for making big statements, like down in Ashland. So generally I just carry my pistol.
Right, and I know that yourself, myself, Michael, Figo, and many other activists in this area came out in full force for the horribly overreaching city council, and honestly, we did sway hearts and minds.
Well,
a lot of that I can't attest to myself.
I don't think the city council was horribly overreaching. I think one individual was being an idiot, still is. But, gun control agenda, that they don't care what the numbers are. They try and ram it through. I found it interesting that in the gun debate, she's going, well, I don't have any facts or statistics to back this up. They're out there, but I didn't look them up. And then in another debate that she was doing, just shortly after they killed that, she's telling the people that are promoting this other thing that she doesn't like, well, where's your facts? And it's like, shut up.
Yeah, no, hers is an emotion-based argument.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, Mike, you were out at Open Carry Ashland, and honestly, that was the first time you and I met. And we've talked a lot on Facebook before that, and honestly, we've had a lot more interaction since then, but it's because you've actually met me and been around me since then. And thankfully, honestly, I didn't find you guys until a lot of you guys until it started about 2 years after I got out of the Army. I mean, I was so brainwashed that I didn't actually have the intellectual intent to free my mind from what was going on the real media and everything like that. I finally found an opening, and on Debbie and Chuck and a couple of other people had a really nice informal. It was Ray Kapika, lots of people were out there, and even actually one that was really, really, really left swinging. That was Linda Sturgeon, and I even still talk to her frequently about the ways that we can try to branch the right-left paradigm into thinking properly and getting on the right track together. But it's really complex. And what did you think, Mike, about what happened out there? Because it was really hard for me to actually finally break my mold from what I've been doing naturally and come out of it. Because, I mean, I was in the Army for 8 years under George Bush after, 9/11. So that was my life, I was like, yep, we preach it, we love it, we do it.
Are you talking about in the context of the Open Carry event situation?
Well, that and other things. I mean, what's been your experience on how you kind of finally just kind of broke the mold and
oh, listen.
First off, what was your experience with that event out there?
Well, I think it was great seeing all these people armed. I've since come to sort of the same thinking as Bruce there, in that the long arms are for making a point. You don't want to walk into the grocery store with it, to do your shopping. It's sort of.
Well, now I've done that.
Oh, have you?
Well, on a 3-day motorcycle trip with an AR strapped to the sissy.
Oh, well, yes, you had no choice. Yes, no, I get that, but I mean, generally speaking, I think it's a little provocative, but you know, in terms of my, you know, coming into my political beliefs or my ideology, it's just that when I was growing up, my father didn't allow us to watch TV, and so we listened to talk radio, and that opens your brain to analysis as opposed to just knee-jerk reacting to everything emotionally. And, you know, I think what we suffer from greatly is people don't analyze below the skin surface on much of anything. And so they have no idea what's going on nationally or locally. And right now I'm coming to the opinion that if you don't take care of business locally, you're never going to do it on a national level. And so that's sort of where I'm concentrating right now, and exposing our local politicians on batcounty.com.
Well, I used to be a politician. And that's absolutely on the spot. If you don't have your local house in order and keep it in order, you can't expect a national movement to survive. I got into politics because there was stupid things going on. It wasn't guns. It was planning commission and stupid rules in a tiny little city. I got involved. They didn't like me after I got up there for a while because I was always butting heads with them. But the citizens did, and that's who you're supposed to represent. And so the citizens were coming up to the planning commission, they're getting shot down left and right, and I got on there. Well, one of the things as a commissioner or anywhere that Robert's rules and motions and seconds and all that works, the first motion, if it's not stupid like a Carol Boysen motion, will generally pass. And so I put my motions out there and I got the citizens hooked up. And we started getting that town turned around. It wasn't really bad to begin with, but there were some things. We got to sort of turn it around. You got to run for office or get into the political appointments at the local level.
So what? I know that we all have different opinions on things. I'm at the stage in life where I actually have no guns registered myself. I do have 2 that I've sold that were originally ran through a background check on me, which doesn't make them registered, I don't believe. But Bruce has brought up different conjunctions on that say that technically they're still in my name.
There's no legal registration, but it's there.
No, it's not legal registration, but it can be found if they want to look for it.
They have a database. I guarantee you they're breaking the law.
No question.
So what do you guys think about people like me now that are, you know, building AR-15s or other guns completely from nothing? And anyone can weigh in on this, honestly.
I used to have a bunch of guns, Colby, and I had a tragic boating accident last month, and I lost them all. So you gun nuts, man. I don't know. I'll stay away from you when the stuff starts getting straight crazy, huh?
Well, I want to hear more about that story. Tragic boating accident.
Oh, it was terrible. I had everything on the boat.
Oh, that's just Bruce. I hope
Okay. Yeah. You know what? Coincidentally, me too.
You too. Dang.
Yes.
Now, I have a large supply of firearms that are not, quote, registered. So they did private buys, and I really want to thank Ceasefire Oregon for their gun buybacks. I wish they'd hurry up and have their one this summer, because when they have those, I get really good deals.
Oh, I would not doubt it at all. Yeah, because they're going to give you like a $50 card for Walmart or a $100 card for Walmart for a possibly $1,000 gun, and if you don't know what your guns are and they're collector's items, it could be even way more than that, and they're just going to melt them and burn them.
Well, I got a U.S. model of 1917 Enfield from the widow of the guy who carried it in World War II for $80. And that's only one of the deals I got. And that one's not going anywhere. That one's not getting resold.
So I know that Michael reloads.
I do on my 223 stuff. That's about it, really.
So is it either price margin or accuracy margin or both?
Yeah, it's a little of both. I bought just a crap load of brass a long time ago, and primers and powder and bullets and all that. And my neighbor and I got into this project of trying to develop the most accurate loading, and we came to a conclusion, and then we stocked up, and that's kind of where I'm at, sitting on my mountain of stuff.
There you go.
So you've gone.
Too?
I'm sorry, powder? Yes.
I'm short on powder.
Oh yeah. Well, don't come knocking.
Yeah. If you reload, it's honestly you only buy in bulk. It's one of those things that, for one, in the recent times, it's been scarce. Primers, powder after Obama got reelected were so scarce that I was thankful that I had stocked up on powder before that hit. And I had an AR before that, so I was lucky enough to already have all my powder and primers and casings and some extra projectiles. But honestly, I will say that I'm paying less money for it. I don't know if anyone else here reloads. If they can speak at any time. But it is so much more beneficial.
I reload my 223, my 308, my 45 long Colt, 38 special. And I'm getting ready to go into the 5.7 because there's just so much you can do with it once you figure out how to reload it.
It's such a hard round to find, though, too. I've actually looked for a box of 5.7s, and I found one 5.7 casing out at the range one time, and I was like, well, somebody's got some money.
Yeah, but the only time I've not been able to find factory rounds in the store is when it was really, really bad about 2 years ago. Other than that, and it took me 3 days to get 2 boxes in. And that was when it was really bad, because 5.7 is not a super popular round. And Sportsman's almost always has it on the shelf for $30 for 50 rounds. And I've got 600 or 800 rounds of it sitting at the house. Some of it's Full Metal Jacket. That's some pretty tough stuff there.
$30 for 50 rounds isn't a bad price, even if it's a small caliber, because it is a rare caliber. A lot of people don't really have that.
Well, now when you're carrying as your everyday carry, and it's your self-defense gun, and there's 21 rounds in a standard magazine. At $30 for 50 rounds is nothing compared to, you'll spend that on 20 rounds of 9mm or 308 self-defense rounds.
Right.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by the 5.7. I think probably one of my concerns, though, is that in a shooting situation, you really have to be careful about your backdrop, because you're gonna go through your opponent and his buddy standing behind him too.
No. The rounds I carry, SS-197s, they're a ballistic tipped hollow point. They stop in 8.5 inches. So my concern is that it's not going to penetrate deep enough. But they break open and fragment when the hollow point hits. And so they won't over penetrate as long as you hit. If you don't hit, it only drops 3 inches at 100 yards.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So but what's behind you if you miss is an issue. But yeah, I love it. I chronographed it. The factory says it's 1750 feet per second out the barrel. About 15 feet in front of the muzzle, I chronoed it at 1700. So it's hauling.
See, and that's not bad. I mean, if you got a fragmenting round like that, I reload the Z-Max from Hornady, which are pretty much the same thing as a V-Max, but they've got a little bit more velocity, and they've got a way better boat tail. Not velocity, but they break up better. They fragment better, and they've got a lot better boat tail, and they come out smoking at like 3,100 feet per second to my AR. But the cooler part is I'm paying less for those than I would for just standard FMJs. So, yeah, to reload them, I'm paying less because I've never paid for brass. We've had enough brass with me and my mentor that we've never actually paid for brass.
Well, I got a really good deal. I bought 1,000 308 and 2,000 223s, and the 223s were actually Lake City 5.56 for a steal. I got it all for $120. And I turned around and I bought 4,000 55 grain Full Metal Jackets, 2,000 145 grain Full Metal Jacket 308s, and I'm still working on those.
I can imagine.
I got a deal. I got a deal on them.
I don't have time for reloading. I couldn't even fathom putting aside the time to do it. But I've been saving brass for years and years and years. So if you guys that are reloading, if you want to do some trades, I'm up to it. I've got thousands of rounds of 223, and I've got 308, and I've got some 357. I have to go.
Everybody's starting to rub their hands together right about now.
That's right.
Yeah, I got piles of stuff, but thousands of spent shells. You know,
I've got over 12,000 full-up rounds right now. And that's not enough.
I'll never get around to reloading.
That ain't enough.
It's just never.
Well, you're on the list now.
I've been on the list.
Well,
yeah,
well, and here's the thing. I've gotten so involved.
If you're not on a list, you're not trying hard enough.
You should be ashamed of yourself. You're not a real patriot if you're not on a list.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor. Oh yeah, I don't worry about it.
See, I'm about to the point.
I've made some pretty large ammo purchases online, even, and and I started building my portfolio. When things were cheap. I prefer the 7.62 by 39 round, and for a while I was able to get Yugo surplus for about 18 cents a round. But you'd have to buy thousands of rounds at a time. But that stuff was 70s and 80s. I've never had a dud, and I've fired thousands.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, it works fine. It's good enough for what it's for. And I have to say, it's accurate enough. If I could drop a clay pigeon on the berm at 200 yards and hit it with an AK-47, that's accurate enough.
Yeah, I've got a video on my YouTube. Everybody talks bad about the AK and how it's spray and pray, but I got a video on my YouTube. Buddy of mine last year, deer season, 110 yards offhand with an AK, and that deer didn't go very far. He went maybe 25, 30 yards. So,
yeah,
nice.
He's not using government surplus ammo, but they work.
Yeah, they work well, but I mean, if you have one that's poorly set up, they'll work poorly too. And some of the Chinese ones can suck. I like the Hungarian builds myself.
But as a Marine, and Marines are smart, we're all riflemen. Most people cannot fire as accurately as the rifle is capable of, even if it is an AK. Most people, not saying everybody. There's a lot of good shots out there, but there's a lot of people out there spending thousands of dollars on one MOA or sub MOA rifles that they can't. Their technique isn't 5 MOA.
That's right.
They're wasting their money.
That's right.
Yeah, well, and another thing that people can do if they want to shoot more accurately is to shoot with both eyes open. Everybody closes an eye, and they totally eliminate their field of view.
Well, it's not just that. It's when you close your eye, you're using muscles to close it, and you're changing your body minusculely.
Yeah.
In Marine Corps, if a guy isn't able to open both eyes and shoot, in basic, they give you an eye patch so that you're not squinting with that one side and pulling yourself off. I mean, just a half a breath of air. Now you got to remember, I went to boot camp in 1979. I'm sure things have changed some. They may not do that anymore. I don't know. But a half a breath of air will change your altitude of your shot enough that at 100 yards you're going to miss. So
wow.
He's completely correct. The fundamentals are the key. When we took out Chuck's friend, or Chuck's wife's friend from Poland, I mean, he was actually a really good shot. But I was listening to him because I had my amplified set of ears on, and I'm not going to plug the name of the set, but you can find them at your local Sportsman's or whatever you have. I could hear his breathing, and I was watching him, and he was perfect with his fluency on how his fundamentals worked, and he was shooting just fine. He didn't even want to shoot that much. For him, it was good enough to just shoot it a couple times and be like, wow, I hit the target every time. And his fundamentals were perfect, though. And for someone that, I don't know what Poland's laws are on guns, but I tell you what, that guy, Chuck's wife's the same way. She is Annie Oakley. I mean, you put her behind a weapon that's sighted in properly, and she will hit the target every time.
Well, it's like in ring courts, brass is our basic. Breathe, relax, aim, squeeze, shoot. And you should be surprised when it goes boom. If you're not being as accurate as you can.
I just got to weigh in a little bit. This is Annie Oakley's husband. In Poland, they have quite restrictive gun laws, but a lot of people don't pay much attention to them. So there's there's a huge black market in guns, and a lot of people own guns out in the country because there's no police out there. So they all have a barking dog, a fence, and a gun.
Even though it's illegal.
They don't. There's no law to enforce it, so they just keep a gun.
Right. And they expect in this country, if they make them all illegal, we're going to obey. Right.
Yeah.
You mean they live in a country where people are still kind of rural and have a good lifestyle and it's overpopulated? That's kind of crazy.
I don't know if the lifestyle's that great, but it's fairly libertarian out there, kind of anarchistic actually. We've stayed with their parents for most of 2 weeks, and I didn't see one police car the whole time I was there.
That's awesome to me, considering what I saw before you shoot up for us to go shooting. I mean, that was... everybody here has heard about that, I think, except for Drew. So
you need to tell the story, because the people listening on the radio haven't heard it, because this is a great story. And this, right. Bruce,
yeah,
in the story, this is why I really like you and Armed Guardian, because the work you did, Colby is probably alive today. I'm serious.
Might very well. I don't know how. Eagle Point's always been pretty good.
No, they were not. They were not overzealous.
You want to hear an exact statement from Eagle Point? Here's an exact statement during that scenario, and I'll give this later because I can remember them saying this, and they did say this. So I'm sitting there waiting for Chuck and his friend from Poland, and I believe it's how do you pronounce his name exactly? Chuck.
It's Piotr. It's
Piotr.
It's Piotr, and you pronounce every letter. So Piotr.
Yeah, it sounds similar to Italian a little bit, but
and it's their version of Peter.
Polish. Yes. So Chuck and Piotr are on their way out to take Piotr shooting, and he's got about 2 days left here in the country, and I'm sitting there in between Pizza Schmitza and Miguel's in Eagle Point in the parking lot waiting for the show up, and Chuck sends me a shout, hey, we're kind of running late. And I was like, I can kill some time somehow. So I'm sitting there. I was like, you know what? I can kill some range time, and I'll load some mags. So I loaded 3 magazines. All my rifles are secured in one exact enclosed, double-layered military spec bag in the trunk. And I load the mags in the front seat. I'm listening to gun talk on 1440. Sorry, Craig.
It's okay.
It's gun talk. Come on.
Yeah, it's all right.
And somebody pulls up next to me in a really newer, expensive truck that's lifted, and they go in. One of them comes out. They go back in. They all come back out. And I was like, I didn't think anything of it. I'm sitting there, and I get done loading the mags. I put the ammo in the back. I put the 2 mags in my pouch on my belt. It's just a standard 2-mag Pixel Army pouch. And put one on the center console. So I'm completely within the confines of the law. I've done nothing illegal at all. Well, I roll the windows down a little bit, and I light a cigarette, and I jump on Facebook. I was like, they're probably going to be a little while longer. So I'll just, scroll through some Facebook. And all of a sudden I hear, you need to get your hands in the air, you need to get your hands in the air now. And I can't remember exact wordings, but I'm going to use those because they're nicer than what I imagined was going through my head at that point in time. I pull my head up from my phone, and being an ex-soldier, I did a spot check. I checked my left mirror, my right mirror, my center console almost simultaneously. And I saw 5 comps, and I can't quote the number. I do believe it was 3 AR-15s. It could have been 2, but there were 5 officers behind me with guns drawn at my head. They come up to the right of the car. The lead does, who is obviously the team leader, and then they start moving in reverse.
Get in front of the other guys with rifles pointed at him.
Well, he's got a lock and loaded AR. I wouldn't blame him, but if you're the lead, you're in charge. So they kind of moved in a reverse V formation on my vehicle, and I'm honestly, the vehicle is not registered to me. So I was like, what is going on? Does my girlfriend have a warrant? I mean, I'm like, what's going on? And I'm an ex-soldier. I'm not used to having those things pointed in my direction. I'm used to having them pointed away. So for me, it was more or less, I know I haven't broken any laws. I know I'm not in violation of any laws, and I haven't in a long time. So it's not me, for one, because if they're attacking the vehicle and me in it, it could be the vehicle, but is it or is it not? I have no idea what's going on, and like 7,000 things flash through your head at one point in time. Ferguson at one point did. I was like, I'm going to get shot dead right now. I have no idea why, and there's going to be no protests, That was the kind of stuff that was going through your head at that point in time. And he gets up the side of the car, he's like, we got a call about a suspicious person loading a holy crap ton load of magazines, and I haven't filed a Freedom of Information Act yet, but I'm going to. Just because I really want to see what really sparked this interaction. You're talking 5 officers drawn down on me. Now, some of them had sidearms and some of them had AR-15s, but I was shaking like a leaf, which is something that's not usual for me ever, especially in any situation. A cop could pull me over and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be more like Mr. Drew Lamb and start talking about some things about why licenses are not valid and discuss with them legalities. Nope. They were like, can we see your license? We got a call. What are you doing here? I was like, well, I'm waiting for my friend to show up so we can go to Rancheria Range. And the second I said that, that cop's head went from, I want to attack this guy, to we're here for no reason. And we could have probably, in my opinion, his eyes went to that, we could have just killed this kid. And I'm not a kid by any means, but at the same fraction, what they told to me was, in the essence of this, he was like, somebody called in, they said some guy was loading all these magazines, and it could have been a possible shooter incident, so we responded accordingly.
But they weren't afraid of you, the people who called in, because they walked right back out to the truck and got right back next to you.
I remember the kid saying, Mom, we've got to go, but he was a teenage kid, so I figured he had some football thing to get to or something. I thought nothing about
it. And they brought their children right back out there, so they obviously were not in any fear, and yet they called you in.
Well, they were in fear not to stay in the area. And this is just my assumption of who called me, and I'll find out once I file the voice, so I don't want to speculate on that one. But it was really odd to me, because I don't see a wrong done, I'm dressed in semi-military clothing halfway, I'm sitting in the front seat listening to the radio. Not
Tell the truth, Kobe, even though you've been in the military, you were dressed like a wannabe.
Well, I didn't have a top on. I had my green top that would go underneath my actual military uniform, a camouflage hat, my boots, and my desert flight suit bottoms on. So, in technicality, I looked just like most of the SWAT members around here, except for I wasn't wearing green half bottoms, because that's what they usually walk around with for training. But it was really one of those situations where it's like, the officers were really apologetic, but at the same time, it was, why was this level of force the response? And the funny part, actually, Bruce, is that he was like really apologetic, and one of the things he said was, we've dealt with Mark Guardian, and you can see it on YouTube. And I was like, you mean Warren? He's like, yeah, Warren. I was like, he works at your Walmart, dude. He's the guy that cuts the meat that you go and buy and eat. You better be nice to him, He's a good guy. He's not. And it's honestly, it all boils down to what we found out in Ashland, is if we don't educate these people, they're completely ignorant.
And Colby, I was going to raise the education question earlier, but I wanted to let everyone kind of finish out, and I wanted to ask the guys that have had all this experience with weapons, how do you turn the tide, just like that example in Ashland?
One person at a time.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, okay, I'm Rush Limbaugh. If you look to my left, you will see his head coming over the horizon. My girlfriend was a lifelong Democrat. I believe lifelong. She was a Democrat when I met her, and didn't want a gun in the house. And now she packs a .357 open carry, and she's a libertarian. And it took one main point, and that was the court case from the Supreme Court that said the police have no obligation to protect you. And she's like, what? And then I said, think about it. If you're in caller number 6 and there's 4 police officers on duty, you're screwed. And that was it.
Yeah.
She's got a CHL. She packed a 357 Magnum. And I changed that one, and then one more, and then you get another one, and you get another one. And invite an anti-gunner or somebody who's afraid of them or not sure, invite them shooting. Pay for the ammo. It's a couple bucks. Pay for some ammo, take them shooting, and you might just win them over.
Right, okay, so here's another question on the national scene, guys. The NRA, obviously, they're the big dogs. Do they have what it takes? Are they a good front, or do you think it's just another big lobby?
Actually, I want to answer this one. I actually stay away from the NRA. I think that Chuck Norris's interjection and Colin Norr's interjection and bringing it into the NRA has been a positive thing. I think that those have actually helped out multiple communities. I think Colin Norr, especially, being a
I love that guy.
very, very, very intelligent Black American, just and doing what he does. I mean, he tears people apart on it anytime he can, and he's good at it, and he does it educationally. He's a very, very educated person. I think those are really good things, but I do not donate to the NRA at all, and I have not signed up for any of their stuff. I will sign up for National Association of Gun Rights, or, what is it, OFF.
Gun Owners of America.
Gun Owners of America, or OFF.
Oregon Firearms Federation. All the good ones.
Yeah.
The National Rifle Association is why we have the NFA of 1934. The National Rifle Association has compromised, and I'm not sure how you can compromise when the other side never gives up anything, but they have compromised and compromised and compromised and put us in the position we're in. Now, they may have thought that was the best they could do at the time, but their track record is compromised. Now they're starting to fight some cases, and they're taking us to the Supreme Court and spending some money. But just the other day, they came out with a press release and said that open carry was basically stupidity. They turned around 2 days later after they caught hell and said, "Oh, that was just one staffer all by himself." I'm like, bullshit. I've been in large organizations. One staffer by himself doesn't get that put out.
Yeah, and you know what's going on there? You've got a big organization. They've become bureaucratic and lethargic like government, and so they are not even paying attention to the fact that open carry is a trend, and the trend is up.
Right.
Well, see, here's a really good point, though. I'm an open carry activist, and I know that two of you saw me out with the big scary gun, as they would call it in Vigo's voice, I probably had the biggest, scariest gun when we were out there, according to those type of people. But at the same time, well, not the biggest caliber, no, but the longest.
Mine shoots 600 rounds a minute.
AR-15.
My AR that I carried nationally was 600 rounds a minute. It was locked and loaded with armor-piercing ammunition. That's
Really?
scary. Yes, it was.
I didn't know that. Well, according to their visual aspects, I had the longest scary gun.
Okay.
But I remember Colby, that hippie that was talking to us, thought it was an AK-47.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Without even looking, I was like, Colby doesn't have an AK-47. What are you talking about?
The thing I got a kick out of after was how tolerant they aren't. Mark Darty and I went for a walk with ARs, and we were verbally assaulted at least 3 times. Cops pulled up and said, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, I don't know, but that guy back there is a freaking nutcase. And, yeah, okay, we'll go check him out.
Speaking of this, I think
Mike
Mike actually witnessed this at that Liberty Ashland carry. I was walking down the street with another guy that had a Glock with a drum on the bottom of it. This guy had a really nice Glock with a drum on it. And they were off to the right, and somebody called me over, and it was because I had the big scary gun, and there were these 2 alternate relationship females with children, and they were arguing with someone, and they were somebody waved me over, and the second I showed up, the lady turned around, and I was like, "Hey guys, what's going on? How's everybody doing today?" I was all happy and cheery. This lady turned around and she just lost it. She was like, "That is not okay. That is not okay." And for those that are listening, I was carrying a 20-inch barreled free float handguard, really sniper setup AR-15. That's very. I mean, I'm 5'10", and it sits at about
about as
my
long
belly
as you
button,
are.
and it sits on my boot. when I'm walking, I just set it on my boot, and I use the back of it for like an elbow rest. It's a very large gun, but you guys have been around me. I open carry a lot of times, but honestly, if you've seen me at events, if you've seen me, if anything I do professionally, I don't actually open carry, and I don't have it concealed, so honestly, I'm usually not armed at those points. So I hope there's no liberals that want to kill me listening.
You got to be at a CHL. You haven't lived until you get a CHL and you go up and you open carry in Portland. It's so much fun.
I just don't like lists.
No, they didn't find me. It was great. They got these little apps for your smartphone that are police scanners. So I'm standing in Powell's Books with my girlfriend. We've got 4 or 5 books that we're going to buy, and we're looking for the next one. And over the scanner in my ear comes the address of Powell's, and there's a man with a gun, and the employee will meet you at the door and escort you to the suspect. He's not doing anything wrong, he's just shopping. But they'll meet you at the door and escort you to the suspect. And I'm thinking, suspect? What the hell? And I'm pretty sure I'm the only guy in Powell's with a gun, openly. And so I turn to my girlfriend and says, hey, the cops are coming. You want to go? You want to talk to them? She's like, just leave. Put down our purchases, walked out the door. We heard 2 or 3 more calls on the way to the car. And there were people, apparently, one on 11th Street freaking out. And then there was one, they found a gun in a park. And it's like, well, no, they saw a guy walk by a park. But it was fun. And then they never found us. And then we got in the car and drove down
in a sense, man, in a sense, that's the thing. Is it's like, when they continue calling like that, or like they did on myself, what you would have probably met with was a really large show of force, because even like this manual that we were talking about, and we haven't really discussed it, and we probably won't tonight. I think that it needs some more. It's 134 pages. I need a little bit more in-depth reading. I'm sure other people do as well, because it covers a lot of very bad stuff on this Ferguson issue. That's honestly, once you start reading into it, you can see where the right tools have been given to the National Guard, and honestly, the police force usually follows most of these, but they take them a little bit higher than what they are. And
biggest problem I have with that
document, more force.
Biggest problem I have with that document is it makes mention to the Constitution and international laws of warfare and the law, but it doesn't anywhere in there mention posse comitatus, and you can't do this shit on U.S. soil except in very specific circumstances.
Exactly.
That's not in there. That's not in there, and that's important. The document's for a worldwide military, but they're talking about U.S. They need to specifically mention the restrictions on them, and they don't do that, and that's an oversight that's just not right.
So I think that your opinion, and probably Michael's opinion, was that there should be a different one that's actually revised for use on U.S. soil.
I would just make more mention to the laws and the restrictions that they have when they're using it against our own people.
Or, Michael, your opinion on that?
Yeah, I just think that, most people probably consider that, it probably hasn't happened in their lifetime that sort of thing has happened in the area where they live, or in the state where they live, or the country. So, they wouldn't think that these rules need to be rewritten for that purpose. But it's becoming more and more apparent all the time that we're likely to see a large-scale deployment of troops to deal with some unrest here in this country at some point in our lifetime, probably.
Well, and most people don't keep researching everything like most of us do. But,
what?
A lot of people have actually lost touch with things like Kent University back in the 60s.
That's right.
When I brought up Kent University in a couple of news.
There was another one that was happened about 2 days apart from that, and you never hear about that one. You only hear about Kent.
I've never actually heard about that one.
I know that because I've got 2,400 incidents of school violence in my database so far.
Wow.
So, yeah. But back to that back to that document. And what you were saying about the people haven't experienced it. There's 25 cities in this state that have illegal laws on the books that say that they can declare an emergency, and if they have declared an emergency, they can prohibit you from possessing, transferring, or all kinds of other stuff, firearms, and that violates state law. But those laws are on the books.
If you want to be technical about it, in a sense, it also violates interstate commerce because the Fed is saying that they have control over what is commercially traded in your interstate.
No. This is cities with local ordinances saying this. And the state law specifically says that if the state declares an emergency, no federal, state, or local entity can do anything about firearms. But the cities have their own local, and that's all in that document that we were talking about, that I wrote, Colby.
It's in the document. I have not read your document.
I wrote. I've got the laws in there as well as all the cities that are messed up. But there's 25 cities, and they have laws on the books that say we can declare an emergency. Well, no, you can't declare an emergency. You have to go through the county, and the county has to go to the state.
Well, and we see this all the time with a lot of different issues like drought or forest fire and things like that.
Right.
We're reaching about the 4-minute mark right now, and if you'd like to, we're going to have to wrap it up. But if you'd like to actually plug where you've got, do you have that on Google Documents or?
That's on Google Docs. I couldn't give you a link to it.
Okay.
It's in Facebook.
Okay.
Oregon Firearms Federation is supposed to be posting it. I posted it on my Open Carry USMC Facebook. But it's 91 pages. It's got 79 pages to cover the 49 cities that have illegal ordinances regarding firearms in this state. And it's actually got the copies of their ordinances, and they're highlighted and color-coded so you can see what's, we've got everything from total bans, and there's no exemption for a CHL, which is absolutely illegal. There's down to something as simple as there's a discharge restriction with no provision for self-defense or no provision for you to defend another. You can defend yourself, but not somebody else. And so I've documented all of them. It's basically, I want activists to be able to use it to go, okay, this city says I can't carry a gun in the park. I'm going to the park.
Right on, Bruce. Well,
Yeah.
Mike, since we've only a little bit of time left, I'm going to let you touch on, some of the things that you're doing. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead and then we'll move on to Craig as well.
Well, we're just encouraging everybody to have a desire for better local government. Know who your people are. Know what they're doing. Go listen to them. And if you can't listen to them, if you can't go to their meetings, come to badcounty.com because we broadcast every meeting that's happening in Southern Oregon. And most of them we're carrying live. And after they're live, they're in a loop. And we specialize in Josephine County and what's going on there. And most of the time, there is some opinion. Dale is injecting some of that, but most of the time we're just playing these people in their own words. And so don't take our word for it. Come and see what's going on.
And then Craig's got an amazing show in the mornings on 880 FM local here in Jackson County. And Craig, you've got about a minute before the music starts. I'm going to have to cut you off, but go ahead.
Well, no, Bruce, you brought up some great points, and as you try to have even kind of concealed or open carry, the state of California will just shock you right out of your shoes with the municipalities that don't allow guns or under 10 or whatever. We're constantly looking at the Constitution. I constantly read the Constitution on the air, and it's so simple, and then just a matter of pointing all that out. We just had Medford Police Chief Tim George on today. It was a fascinating discussion. So hopefully we'll get that posted on our kcmxam.com. There's a YouTube page. And Colby, thanks for having me tonight.
Definitely, and I know you didn't have you actually missed that tagging that I made. So I know we got the music starting right now, but I tell you, we've got to keep educating people so that we don't have these gun problems. And thanks to everybody for coming online. And if you guys want to stick around, we'll probably have a little bit of after talk as we always do. So thank you for joining Double Cross Radio. And I'm Colby.
Take an anti-gunner gunning, damn it.
And Chuck and Drew, as always, are silent right now. But thank you guys so much.
See you guys later. I was here.